Hello, how are you? Welcome to my review of Rupaul's Drag Race, Canada's Drag Race, Season 3, Episode 4. Definitely, if you have not checked out episodes 1, 2, and 3, those are already uploaded, so I definitely would go check out my review of episodes 1, 2, and 3 when you have a chance after you watch this episode 4 review. By the way, my boy name is Lamarr Townsend. I'm actually a psychic and energy channeler, a tarot reader, and an astrologer. I'm also a drag queen and a makeup artist. I love makeup. I love, playing, in makeup. I love dressing in drag. I love being creative. I love spirituality. So definitely subscribe to this channel. This is my second channel, actually, Lamarr Does Life. My main channel is Lamarr Townsend Tarot, where I talk about astrology, the zodiac signs, psychic, readings, tarot readings, and stuff like that. So if you'd be interested in any of those things, then definitely subscribe once again to my main channel. I'll show you really quickly. My main channel, Lamarr Townsend Tarot, once again. Alright. And my channel now where you're watching me is Lamarr Does Life. Alright, and if you would like a reading as well, such as a tarot reading, a psychic reading, an energy channeling, or anything like that, or candles, or anything spiritual, check out my website, lamarrtownsendtarot.com. Go right to the store section. This is where you can see all the rate services and products that I do offer. I do birth chart readings, mediumship readings if you want to connect to those who have passed on. I do past life readings if you want to learn about your past lives. I do phone psychic tarot readings, email psychic tarot readings, video recorded psychic tarot readings. I do candles, dream interpretation reading classes, tarot classes, astrology classes, spiritual development classes, and so much more. So if you'd be interested in any of these things, then definitely check out my website. Once again, lamarrtownsendtarot.com. Lots of notes for this episode. I think this episode so far is the #1 episode where I have the absolute most notes. So, child, this was a very juicy episode. I'm very excited to get into today's episode 4. Let's get right into the review of episode 4. Let me take a swig of my wine, honey, because this was a doozy, alright? I don't want to mess up my lipstick. Although I could just get a straw, to be honest with you. Like I was saying, this episode is a doozy. And, there was so much going on, you guys. Let's just get right into it. So this is episode 4 of Canada's Drag Race, Season 3, Episode 4. Alright. So let's do a quick recap, just a quick few second recap of last week. So last week, Jada Shada Hudson won the Maxi challenge, alright? And Chelazon Leroux was sent home, alright? So we lost Chelazon Leroux. A couple notes as we get into this episode. The girls go behind the scenes and they have a moment together. Give me a second. The girls go behind the scenes and they have a moment together. There's a couple notes I want to mention. That's not it. Hold on. Okay, I got it now. Alright, so there's a couple things I want to mention. So the girls get back from, once again, last week's episode where they did the whole lip sync. So these are all their looks and all the girls from last weekend, them reconvening after their critique. So there were a couple things that happened during this interaction here that I took notes on that I want to mention. #1, Kaos, who is in the blue here in the middle with the blonde wig. Kaos is sad that Chelazon went home because they bonded. Now, we talked about this last week, how Chelazon Leroux and Kaos bonded on their indigenous backgrounds. and how that was a point of connection for both of them. And I kind of knew, and I think I kind of alluded to it or mentioned to it last week, how, you know, I thought it was good that, like, Kaos had someone to connect to in terms of their indigenous culture. But when Chelazon went home, I was like, oh gosh, I'm worried for Kaos now, because who is Kaos going to connect to? So automatically Kaos is starting off the episode, you know, sad, in their feelings, and upset about Chelazon going home. Miss Fiercalicious felt bad about sending Chelazon home, because remember last week it was the end of the episode of 3 was Miss Fiercalicious lip syncing against Chelazon Leroux. As I told you last week, Miss Fiercalicious absolutely slayed Chelazon Leroux. You know, Miss Fiercalicious gets on my nerves sometimes, but I am someone who is very unbiased. That is one thing, you know, that I will give myself, among many other things, that I will give myself, is that I am very unbiased in the sense that I will give credit where credit is due. I may not always like you. You know, there may be maybe moments where we maybe clash, but I will give credit where credit's due, and I am a fair person. And I will absolutely say that last week, Miss Fiercalicious did slay Chelazon Leroux. So I do agree with the outcome that Miss Fiercalicious should have stayed and Chelazon should have gone. But Miss Fiercalicious is sad and upset that she had to send her home. I mean, I get it, but it's a competition, so it's going to happen. You know, so I'm not sure. And the thing with Miss Fiercalicious is I'm not sure if she's genuine or if she's playing the game. You know, so I don't know. Anyways, Jada ends up laughing at Miss Fiercalicious because Miss Fiercalicious gets so dramatic. That she ends up laughing at Miss Fiercalicious, and Miss Fiercalicious ends up getting really mad at Jada. Like, Miss Fiercalicious is going on and on about how she feels so bad about sending Chelazon Leroux home, someone who she had just met. And she was kind of giving off crocodile tears, to be honest with you. And I feel like Jada kind of called her on her bluff and was like, you know, girl, you're, like, crying about someone you just met, to be honest with you. You know, so Jada ends up laughing at Miss Fiercalicious. Miss Fiercalicious, of course, gets upset about the fact that Miss Jada Shada Hudson is laughing at her crying. All right, that gets all the other girls laughing, to be honest. And then there's this like awkward moment where Fierce once again gets upset at Jada teasing her for crying. And then remember last week, Miss Fiercalicious went against Vivian. Remember last week Vivian won the Maxi challenge, and Vivian got to choose like the parts for the lip sync that they did last week. And then Miss Fiercalicious here in the picture, you know, right now, as you can see with the, you know, the clown makeup. All right, Miss Fiercalicious is upset pretty much the whole episode last week at Vivian Vanderpuss for Vivian choosing a song to give to Miss Fiercalicious and her team, which she was with Bombae, that she didn't want. So, what I like about this is that during episode 4, Vivian gets a dig at Miss Fiercalicious, and kind of like cracks a joke on her too. It's like all the girls kind of ganged up a little bit on Miss Fiercalicious. Not all the girls, but it's like, you know, they kind of called her out on her dramaticness and her like just being extra a lot of the time. So like Vivian is like, you know, I think Vivian said something along the lines of like, I think Jada's laughing at you because you make everything seem like it's the end of the world and it's like such a big deal, you know. And of course, once again, that makes Miss Fiercalicious even more upset. So I'm like, Miss Fiercalicious, you're already starting off the episode getting on my nerves, girl. Like, oh my god, she was really trying me this episode. So then, another thing that I thought was very funny was that Jada Shada Hudson kept getting Irma Gerd's name wrong. Jada Shada Hudson kept calling Irma Gerd Irma Gerd without the D at the end, right? So I thought that was funny. You know, once again, Jada's one of those people similar to Miss Fiercalicious where I'm like, are you doing that on purpose or are you just being shady? Like, you know what I'm saying? They both have that thing with them where it's like, I feel like you know what you're doing, even though you're portraying that you don't know what you're doing or you're not aware fully of what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, Jada, child, like that. I thought that was very funny. All right, so let's move on. Miss Fiercalicious is upset as usual, honey. What else is new? Well, I'll tell you what else is new. The guest judge is none other than Jimbo. Yay! I absolutely love Jimbo. The reason why I fell in love with Canada's Drag Race, RuPaul's Canada's Drag Race, in the first place is majorly because of Jimbo here. This drag queen, persona, human being here, right here, is one of the main reasons why I felt. Also, the cast of season 1 was just really good. I am loving this cast of season 3, but I have to say Jimbo is my favorite thing to ever come out of Canada's Drag Race so far. Anything Jimbo is in, I want to see. And because she always gets eliminated. Although I've heard spoilers for All Star season 8, which I won't get into here. But apparently Jimbo gets far in All Star season 8, which is coming up in I guess a year or two. Anyways, Jimbo always gets to the end, but then gets eliminated, or almost to the end, or gets eliminated. And then once Jimbo gets eliminated, I stop watching whatever season she's on. So, I don't know. I was so happy to see Jimbo here this episode. It just made the episode so much sweeter. Jimbo is one of my favorite drag queens in the Drag Race franchise. Definitely top 5 for sure. Alright? So, Jimbo is here. And Jimbo also gave some really good critiques throughout the episode too. So, the girls enter the workroom, and they get right into it automatically. Fierce calls out Jada for not talking to Jada during the competition. Apparently, Jada and Miss Fiercalicious were friends. I think they're both from Toronto, as we learned last week or a couple weeks ago. Apparently, they were friends before the competition, but Miss Fiercalicious calls it upon her, takes it upon herself to call out Jada in this random moment, alright, for not talking to Jada or not talking to Miss Fiercalicious and not interacting with Miss Fiercalicious enough during the competition. And Jada is kind of like giving the energy off of like, are you serious, girl? And I have to like give that same sentiment as Jada. Like, are you serious? Like, it just feels like Miss Fiercalicious is always finding something to complain about. And she's just really been getting on my nerves these last 2 episodes. I have to be honest with you. There's another picture I had of her. Hold on. I think it's this one. Yeah. Miss Fiercalicious has just been getting on my nerves this entire episode. This episode and last week, I don't know. She's just been really trying me. But once again, it's like, I don't know if she's playing a game, as in if she's trying to purposefully get underneath people's skin, or if she's just genuinely like this type of person who's dramatic and takes everything to heart. It's like, I don't know where you fall in the spectrum, but it's just a lot to deal with. Fierce doesn't end up stopping there. All the girls end up getting annoyed with Fierce, and Gisèle Lullaby literally, like, they end up literally breaking the fourth wall. Like, you can literally see them all getting, like, physically annoyed with Fierce. Gisèle Lullaby ends up breaking the fourth wall and looking directly at the camera with crazy eyes. Like, why is this girl, like, going on and on and on about, like, her woes and her upset, what she's upset about? And then look at Irma Gerd right behind Gisèle and Bombae right next to, like, look at their faces. They're just like, girl, will you shut up? Like, this is literally, I took this screenshot literally in the midst of Miss Fiercalicious going on and on and on about her rant about how Jada laughed at her, and she had to send someone home. It was just like, girl, if you don't shut up. All right, so Gisèle Lullaby in this moment was like giving everything I needed, and I kind of love that she broke the fourth wall and looked directly at the camera and was like, "Are y'all hearing this?" Yes, Giselle, we were hearing it, and it was ridiculous from Miss Fiercalicious. All right, so all the girls get annoyed with Miss Fiercalicious, and then once again, Miss Fiercalicious mentions Jada laughing at her for crying about sending Chelazon Leroux. Well, that makes Jada laugh once again about the situation. All right, and they literally all end up look at Jada's with the orange hat and her head down. They all end up, and Miss Fiercalicious, because she has the white snapback, it ends up laughing too. Like they all end up laughing at Jada laughing at Miss Fiercalicious crying. It was just it made me laugh. I was like, I'm glad everyone can laugh at the ridiculousness of Miss Fiercalicious, and I'm so glad that Miss Fiercalicious herself can laugh at her own ridiculousness, because this whole thing was completely ridiculous. And I was just like, I'm just glad we can all laugh, because I thought it was funny. And then I think this is once again the moment where Vivian kind of took a dig at Miss Fiercalicious, and was like, you make everything so like it's the end of the world, like chill out basically. And I completely agreed with Vivian. I'm like, you really need to chill out, Fierce. All right. So, anyways, Jada and Miss Fiercalicious eventually end up making up. All right, and moving on past the situation, which I am so happy about, because I thought this whole situation was just so stupid. And then, none other than, alright, you wear it, lipstick, paint it on, Miss RuPaul herself, honey, comes on the screen with a soliloquy, as usual. And then Tracy Melchor comes out to give us, the actual information in terms of what the mini challenge is. Alright. So, the mini challenge is keynote speakers at Trojan Presents Tuck Talks. So, basically, this is like a play on TED Talks, but it's called Tuck Talks. Centered around, obviously, RuPaul's Drag Race, drag queen, culture and things of that nature. So the girls have 20 minutes to get into girl boss quick drag, meaning they have to look like a woman or a girl who's a boss. And then they have to improv an entertaining lecture. However, they find out the topic once they get out on stage. So they don't have time to prepare for what they're going to talk about. They only, they're going to have to improv what they talk about once they get on stage. That's when they find out their topic. Ciao. I'm not going to ruminate too much on this, because a lot of the girls were not good, and there was only really one girl who was good. So let's just get into this mini challenge and move on. So I'm only going to mention the one girl who was actually really good, and that was Jada. Jada Shada Hudson. All the other girls left a lot to be desired. Right? So this was Jada's set, and how this went was the girls got to the stage, and they had to talk about topics that were on the screen. As right now you can see, it says the raw truth. I can't even read the small print, but that screen right there, based on what was on that screen, that was what they had to talk about. So I remember at one point they had like a roller coaster. At one point they had it looked like a white man and a black woman kissing. At one point it switched to like an analytical graph, and a lot of the girls struggled with this, to be honest. The only one that was really consistent and funny was Jada. She went along with it, and it's kind of like none of it really made sense. but it was all funny, and I think the point was to like be able to talk and improv. I think this was basically like an improv challenge, and I think Jada knocked it out the park. A lot of the girls struggled with this, but especially Irma Gerd struggled, Kimmy Couture struggled, Miss Fiercalicious struggled, and Lady Boom Boom struggled. They were all pretty bad with this mini challenge, to the point that they weren't even worth mentioning or like snapping pictures up. To be honest with you, no shade to these girls. So Jada ends up winning the mini challenge. I completely agree. She was the best out of all the girls, and she ends up winning 2,000 Canadian dollars. So good for you, Jada. All right. So then we get to the Maxi challenge. And we find out that the Maxi challenge is that the girls are given boxes with different types of themes, and inside of these boxes are contents that they are meant to create, or they're meant to use to create a runway look. So this is basically a design challenge. So the girls each get their specific boxes with different type of unique label on it. So one may say basic, one may say spunky, one may say sporty, and all these different types of things. And based on what's inside, they have to make a look that represents them and go with it. So, since Jada was the one that won, Jada ends up being the one that gets to choose what boxes all the girls get. Now, one note I want to make before I get into this challenge. Irma says she can sew, she can stone, and she can needle felt. I think I know what that means. So automatically, once again, when I hear the girls say this, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be looking out for that. I'm going to be looking out for, sewing, stoning, and all these different types of things you said, and see how you work with your skill set. So that's one thing I heard Irma say. And then we get right into Jada assigning the boxes. So Jada assigns Spooky to Kaos. Very fitting. She assigns Krusty to Gisèle. Interesting. She assigns Quirky to Kimmy Couture. Krusty goes to Gisèle Lullaby. Old Fashioned goes to Bombae. Jada Shada Hudson gave Sporty to Irma Gerd. Jada gave Crafty to Lady Boom Boom. She gave Fiery to herself, so Fiery was Jada. She gave Flirty to Miss Fiercalicious. And then she gave Basic to Vivian Vanderpuss. The reason why she gave these last options was because I think she said she gave Miss Fiercalicious Flirty because she just didn't want to hear Miss Fiercalicious's mouth anymore, and she knew she would have been upset if she had gotten Basic. So I can't blame her there. It is what it is with that. Sometimes you just gotta work with the people you work with. To be honest, I thought the picking was very shady. Spooky was with Kaos was probably the only one I thought was a good match. I probably, for example, would have put Quirky with Vivian Vanderpuss. I would have put Basic with probably. I probably, to be honest with you, maybe would have given Basic to maybe Irma, which would have been shady, or Fierce. Anyone getting Basic would have been Fierce, or would have been, oh my god, would have been shady. I don't know. I would have given Crafty to actually Kaos, maybe. Some of these just feel kind of shady. Bombae is old fashioned. I don't get that at all. So I was like, okay, this is very shady. Jada's playing a shady game. So anyways, the girls grab their boxes. And they open the boxes and they find out that they all got the same identical materials. So we initially thought that, based on the labels, that there would be a specific type of material inside. but they're all the same material inside. There's like, purple feather boas, and this kind of like, silver fabric in all of the boxes. So it's like Tracy ends up being like, don't worry about labels. Work with what you've got and make the best garment, out of all the girls, out of all your sisters or your competition. So I was like, oh, that was a pretty interesting twist. I thought that they were going to end up getting different types of things, which is what you often see with these types of challenges. You often see people, getting different types of like materials. And so it was like an interesting twist to like have all the girls work with the same material. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, oh, okay. A couple notes. All right. A couple notes I want to mention. You know, I always have notes. So here's Tracy in the white blouse here. Tracy is always dressed to the nines, and I love Tracy. Tracy gives off a very Libra energy, so I'm not sure her zodiac sign, but she's very likable. She always seems in a very peppy, uppy mood, and she throws shade, but it's like nice shade. It's fun shade, so I like that kind of shade. I like all types of shade, to be honest with you. Anyways, all right, couple notes. So Mirror's Fiercalicious ends up asking Lady Boom Boom's opinion. Now, I found this interesting because, Lady Boom Boom is the sewer of the group. Lady Boom Boom doesn't really give her too much fever. Lady Boom Boom gives her a soliloquy similar to RuPaul. And it's like, don't put too much pressure on yourself. The one who puts pressure on themselves loses the race. Or, some stuff like that. I don't remember what she said. I didn't write it down. But that's basically what Lady Boom Boom gave Fierce. Which I was like, I understood that. Because I was like, okay, you're sisters and you're friends and you're growing a friendship, but this is still a competition. So am I really going to give you all my secrets? So I couldn't blame Lady Boom Boom for not giving Fiercalicious much fire there. Alright, anyways, Irma says she's doing Club Kid with, the material. Lady Boom Boom starts to feel pressure because, she did so well on the last challenge, and, she's... it's like, oh, there's so much pressure on her being, the sewer of the group. Once again, delusional. All right, Lady Boom Boom, I live for her delusions. All right, she just, she's a hoot. Jada's struggling with her concept, and you can see Jada here in this picture with once again, the orange hat with Tracy. Tracy came into the workroom and had all the girls basically come up to her and kind of pitch their ideas to her. And Jada's idea was kind of like, I don't know, it wasn't sounding too good. So, Jada was struggling with her concept. Gisèle says she's going to give high fashion. Alright. So it's like, okay, interesting. Gisèle Lullaby. Bombae says, Bombae seems really excited about this challenge. It seems like a opportunity for Bombae to come out of their shell. So it's like, okay. Kaos says she doesn't want to look too crafty. Interesting. And Vivian says she's giving 1980s. Alright, so half the girls end up gluing their stuff, alright, and then the other half of the girls end up sewing their stuff. So I was like, this is going to be pretty interesting. I don't have too much when it comes to gluing. I don't know too much about gluing. I mean, I do know about E6000 glue. But I'm much more of a sewer personally. Now, do I know how to sew a garment necessarily? Not yet, but I do know how to work with a sewing machine. I have a sewing machine, a Singer actually in my room, which I actually need to sew some of these satin pillows over here because they're coming loose. So I I probably would have been a part of the sewing group because sewing is also just a bit more like firm. You get a really good, firm edge, or hem when it comes to sewing. Alright, anyways, so the runway. A couple notes. So as the girls are getting ready for their runway, once again, there's a couple things I want to mention. Alright, so as the girls are getting ready, they're getting in their makeup and stuff like that, getting ready for the runway, the Maxi challenge for the week. We find out that Kimmy Couture was in a dance group previously, before she was a drag queen. So, Kimmy Couture was actually a dancer, apparently, before she was a drag queen. Which I found very interesting, because last week I was just saying, like, how I was surprised by Kimmy Couture's dancing ability. So that makes so much sense. I was like, okay, that makes sense from last week then. All right. The girls get into an interesting discussion about gender and drag. Um, I found it interesting because Kimmy Couture is transgender. And Kimmy Couture's perspective was more so like, I don't want to spend my life or feel like I have to spend my time educating you on gender and drag and, transgender and things of this nature. I thought it was a really enlightening conversation. I really like that conversation. I really like when they have these conversations. Irma Gerd, for example, dropped some jewels during this conversation. One thing she said I wrote down is that drag is about celebrating femininity. I was like, wow, that's so true. That makes so much sense because in, this very, patriarchal, masculine world we live in, men celebrating their femininity is a very, kind of still a taboo thing in 2022. Less taboo than it was back then, or back, when, but still taboo nonetheless. Men often are expected to be masculine and not feminine at all, So I was like, I love this conversation. I love that conversation they had. So anyways, let's move on. So Brooke Lynn appears, and Brooke Lynn, first of all, looks Brooke Lynn has been looking better and better each episode. Alright? Now, to be honest, I wasn't the hugest fan of the wig, but even with the wig, I thought she looked great. Now, if anything, I think she would have looked great if she had like some sort of head wrap headband, maybe similar to this with crystals or something like around the hairline. Because there's something about the hairline that just kind of throws it off for me. But she looks great. She looks like she's going to the Jubilee, or a crowning, or a presidential event or something like that. I mean, Brooklyn looks amazing. So, a funny thing that happens is, once again, Jimbo was in season 1 of Canada's Drag Race, and Brooke Lynn Hytes ends up, was the judge of season 1 back then. So Brooke Lynn Hytes was the judge of Jimbo, and once again, Jimbo went on to do All Stars, or it was Canada versus the World or something like that, or it was UK versus the World, which was a branch of, once again, RuPaul's Drag Race. So she competed in that, didn't win. But one thing was that during the talent portion of that season of RuPaul's Drag Race, she did this weird bit with baloney. And I don't even know how to explain it. She came out as like a sperm or something like that. And then she, Jimbo, like, gave birth to baloney. It was really all over the place. I still don't understand it. I absolutely loved it. Y'all know I love Jimbo. So the gag here was that Jimbo had baloney, kind of, signaling back to his All-Star 7, which came out maybe, like, last year or something like that. And Jimbo ends up throwing the baloney at Brooke Lynn Hytes. Because in All-Star 7, RuPaul was the judge of that. Or, in All-Stars... Oh my god, it's not All-Stars. This is why it's so confusing, because there's so many different franchises. In UK versus the World, RuPaul was the judge, and Jimbo, as once again part of her talent portion, ended up throwing baloney at RuPaul. RuPaul, like, went with the gag and caught the baloney, but it was just, like, so weird. So anyways, Jimbo ends up bringing this gag, this bit, to Canada's Drag Race Season 3, Episode 4 with Brooke Lynn Hytes. She ends up bringing baloney out of nowhere and, like, throwing it at Brooklyn. Brooklyn doesn't catch it, and Brooklyn's like, I feel like this is payback, basically, for you not winning Season 1. It was just a really cool bit, and I love, like, seeing Jimbo, like, I just love seeing Jimbo. Alright, to be honest with you. I love Jimbo. Alright, so the category of the week, for the week, is Bitch Stole My Look. Let's get into these girls' runways and see what they brought to the runway. Runway. Bring it to the runway. Runway. Let's see what they brought to the runway. So first up for the Bitch Stole My Look runway. Once again, going back to the fact that they all have the same material. I thought that was kind of funny. Number one, we have Bombae. Now, Bombae gave us kind of a gag a little bit. Bombae is a queen of reveals. I'm pretty sure in every runway, pretty much, Bombae's had a reveal so far. Which I live for a reveal. I live for a gag. So, she comes out like kind of covered in this kind of thing, this tarp, moment. And then, out of nowhere, she comes and gives us a sickening reveal. Which there we are. There she is. Sorry about that. This was Bombae's reveal. I thought Bombae slayed. The judges were like kind of giving the energy of like, we could have done without the reveal and you could have just come out in this and you would have been fine. I kind of liked the reveal, to be honest with you. I thought it was fun. And I think, I don't know, once again, Bombae's had a lot of reveals on the runway, so I'm kind of associating it now. Like, I'm kind of like, I don't want to say I'm expecting it, but like, whenever I see it, I'm like, oh, another one. It's like, opening up like a Chinese, fortune cookie or something like that, and like, wanting to know what the next fortune is. So I liked it. I didn't agree with the judges. I liked the reveal, and I love this look from Bombae. I thought she looked amazing. After Bombae is Vivian Vanderpuss, who's kind of quiet this episode, to be honest with you. Not much, from Vivian this episode. She kind of like was very safe. And so was this outfit. I was not the biggest fan of this outfit. This was not my favorite outfit. She looks great, but I don't know. The slit is kind of like in a weird place. And I'm not sure if the fabric on the inside is the same as the outside. There were just certain details where I was like, it's kind of not hitting the mark for me detail-wise. So this was not my favorite look from Vivian Vanderpuss. After Vivian Vanderpuss is Gisèle Lullaby. I thought initially Gisèle Lullaby's dress looked fine. I was a little bit confused because it looked like completely two different dresses. Like almost like the purple dress is like one dress, but then the silver dress is like almost like hanging off of her shoulders. Almost like she's like trying to figure out, do I wear this one or this one? But it's one dress thrown into one. The judges lived for it, to be honest with you. And after they lived for it, I kind of looked at it like a second time, and I was like, I guess I can appreciate certain things about it, but the thing that throws it off for me is the fact that for me it just looks like two completely different dresses. Like I like the slit, I like the purple there, but there's just something about it. Remember she was saying how she wanted to go high fashion earlier, which I definitely could see this as high fashion, but it's just like once again like a little confusing for me. Once again, keeping in mind Gisèle Lullaby is from a French background, so I'm don't know if there's a connection to that, but I was just like, I like it, but there's just like something off about it for me when it comes to the two dress thing. But I thought it was very creative, to be honest, probably in terms of the runway, even though it's like there's something about it where it's like I don't know. Once again, I'm very unbiased and I give credit where credit's due. I would have to say that probably Gisèle would have probably been the best on the runway. Second after Kimmy, which we'll get into Kimmy right now. Alright? I thought Kimmy looked great on the runway. The judges brought up the point that it's a similar silhouette that we've seen from Kimmy, which I do agree with. We've seen this silhouette a lot from Kimmy on the runway. So I'm like, I do agree with that, but I thought she looked really, really good. I liked how she incorporated her fabrics and things of that nature. I liked the hair. So yeah, she was giving like very drama, very creative. I thought this was excellent. So Kimmy and Gisèle were my top favorite on the runways this week. After Kimmy was Mir's Fiercalicious. I didn't like this look from Mir's Fiercalicious, to be honest. I thought the shape was very weird. from the triangle thing, kind of pointing down towards her crotch to like just the shape of the bodice, or the corset. I'm not sure. This was just not my favorite look from Mirror's Fiercalicious, so I did not like this look. After Mirror's Fiercalicious was Irma Gerd. Okay. So Irma, she had an interesting look. She was a clown. I guess she's gone to clown school. And she wanted to show up her clown school skills. One thing I did like about this is that when she came out, she had two blue balls stuffed in her bra. So she kind of did a wiggle, and then she pulled the blue balls out of her bra and started juggling them. So I was like, I liked the concept. I thought it was a fun concept. The look, however, was definitely not my favorite. All right. But I did think it was a fun concept. I liked how she was having fun on the runway. Sometimes you can just sell a look by having fun and giving the right energy. After Irma was Lady Boom Boom. I liked Lady Boom Boom's look, to be honest with you. The only thing I didn't like was I thought the silver ruffles, the silver dress here was way too big. And she kind of gave off this concept of that she was pregnant or something like that. I didn't get that. I just thought the ruffled silver dress was just too big. Maybe if she would have once again given us concept, if pregnancy was the concept here, maybe at some point maybe lift up the silver dress and kind of show your belly, show that you have a belly. But once again, even then, it's what does this exactly have to do with the topic at hand? Bitch stole my look. I don't know. I was just I like it. There's just things about it that I didn't get. Alright, along with the concept and along with this, big ruffle dress. So, I liked it nonetheless, though, from Lady Boom Boom. Lady Boom Boom's aesthetic, is really good when she's on it. So, alright, after Lady Boom Boom was Jada Shada Hudson. I thought this look was all over the place. I absolutely hated the afro on top. It didn't make any sense to me how, on her hair, she had almost wavy, kind of red hair. And then on the top of this contraption, it looks like, do you remember back in the day when you would go to the banks and you would go to the drive-thru and they would there was that suction thing where you put the slip in and it would suction to the other side, and then the bank teller would suction it back to you, with a lollipop always. That was back in the 90s or early 2000s. I don't know if they still do that. That's what that thing looks like to me. Alright, I did not, and y'all know I love Jada Shada Hudson. I did not like this look, to be honest. I did like the silhouette. I thought everything from the neck down was okay, was workable, but everything from the neck up was just threw the whole thing off. But there's just a lot going on here. There's a lot it's too much all over the place. So this was not my favorite look. All right, after Jada Shada Hudson was Kaos. Now what's interesting is that Kaos mentioned earlier that she didn't want to come across as crafty. I like this look, to be honest with you, but it was very crafty. It came across as very, very crafty. The little things she has here were all made of cardboard. And the judges mentioned the fact that we've seen this silhouette also from Kaos before. So, I like this look from Kaos, but it came across as very crafty, to be honest with you, I have to say. So, alright, we're done with the runway. A couple things I want to mention. Jimbo had, like I said, really good critiques this episode. Jimbo, I want to see more of Jimbo as a guest judge, or a judge in some way, shape, or form. Because I thought Jimbo's critiques were very on point. And I think you may just have to watch the episode to see what I'm talking about. But I really like Jimbo as a guest judge. Vanjie last week was just fun, but Jimbo this week was like about business, like was on point about their critique. So, all right, so we get past the runway and then dun dun dun, Brooke Lynn Hytes gags us for the gods. Right towards the end of the episode, Brooke Lynn Hytes brings out the ultimate gag, child, and asks all the girls who should go home tonight. Now, when they do this on, I think, pretty much all the seasons, at least in the American season. And I think they've done it in the Canadian season a lot. So basically, when this happens, the judges go one by one with each girl, and each girl has to answer as to, out of whoever's in this group here, who they think should go home. Ooh, I would not want to be in their position, to be honest with you. First of all, it sucks to be in the bottom. But it especially sucks to put a target on your back in this sense of calling someone out. I don't know what I would do in that moment, to be honest with you. It would depend on the context of the situation, But I would hate to call a girl's name out and then that girl to have a target on my back, for the rest of the competition. Ergo, hopefully they end up going, sooner than later than I do, right? Anyway. Child. So, let's go one by one and let's see who all of the girls mentioned. Now, this is when things got really I was like, child, I need some wine. Once we got to this part of the episode, I was like, child, I need some wine. Speaking of which, let me get another gulp of my wine, okay? Child. Let's get into it. Alright, so Brooklyn goes one by one and asks all the girls who they think should go home tonight. I was really surprised by what these girls said, to be honest with you. I felt some kind of way. Bombae is first, and you can see Bombae in the far left with her her mouth on her, or her hands on her mouth, like she's like, oh my god, kind of thing. Bombae says Kaos. Alright, fair. Excuse me, oh my god. Gisèle says Jada. That had me shook. I kind of knew or figured they were going to say Jada. Because I remember pausing right before they got to this part. I think I had to go pee or something, and I was like, I bet you they're either going to say Kaos, Jada, or Irma. And I predicted it. Alright, as usual, I predict a lot of things. Alright, so Gisèle says Jada, Kimmy says Jada Shada Hudson. Irma Gerd, and remember, Irma Gerd worked with Jada last week. Alright. Irma says Jada. I thought that was so shady. I thought that was very shady of Irma Gerd. Jada says Kaos. And Kaos says Jada. So there's 2 votes for Kaos out of these girls right here in this group. And there are 4 votes for Jada. Now, this was a tough one because I really like Jada, but this look was just not it. And she kind of put her foot in her mouth by being in the bottom and allowing herself to be a target for these girls because she is fierce competition. So of course, the girls are going to take a chance to take out weak and or fierce competition in a moment like this. In a moment like this. Alright, so I was like, ooh, they're playing dirty, to be honest with you. They know Jada's fierce competition. You know, I feel like a lot of the girls didn't pick Kaos because they're not bothered by Kaos. It's like if you have the opportunity to get rid of the biggest competition, why not get rid of the biggest competition now? I was like, ooh, I am side-eyeing everyone here, you know, probably except Bombae. You know, I don't know, like, this was such a tough situation, you guys. Like, if I were there, I don't know. Like, I think, and I like Kaos, I think I would have to choose Kaos. For me, it would be between Kaos and Irma Gerd. I can excuse Jada's outfit in this one challenge, but Jada has won many challenges, and in my opinion, therefore, Jada deserves to be there. You know? And if I'm competing, I want to compete. I personally want to compete against the best. I don't want to have, you know, I want to know that I'm good. I want to know that I earned my win. You know, and I feel like with Jada, that it would be that way if I were competing. So me personally, I was like side-eyeing. I was like, this is very shady. I didn't like these choices. Anyways, Jada ends up crying. All right. So these were both Jada and Kaos's faces when people call their names. So this is Kaos's face when her name is called. You can tell she's mad, right? And then this is Jada. Jada starts crying immediately when Irma Gerd calls her name, and she looks directly. You can see her looking directly at the camera here. And I was like, I totally understand why she started crying when Irma Gerd said her name, because I was just like, these girls are so shady. Like, you worked with Jada last week, and you're gonna call her name just because she didn't have maybe the best week. I was just like, throw all the girls in the trash. I was just like, oh wow, I cannot believe this. So I was kind of upset about this, to be honest with you. As was Jada. I hope this lit a fire under her ass, to be honest, and, you know, showed her that these girls can't necessarily be trusted in this competition, you know, to be honest with you, which we'll get into here in a second. Alright. So that happens, and we find out that Gisèle ends up winning the Maxi challenge. So Gisèle Lullaby ends up winning the Maxi challenge. You know, I agree. I thought, you know, out of all the girls' outfits, I thought this looked the best, to be honest. She said she was going to do high fashion. She definitely, you know, did what she said she was going to do. While it's not necessarily my absolute favorite, it's the best out of the bunch, and I agree. It's something different, whereas Kimmy Couture, like I was saying, Kimmy might have been second runner-up, but we've seen that silhouette from Kimmy before. I have not seen anything like this from Gisèle Lullaby. So I agree with this win. I do agree that Gisèle should have won this Maxi challenge. So Gisèle ends up winning $5,000, and we find out that the girls will have to lip sync to one of my favorite songs ever, "Stranger in My House" by Tamia. And not just the regular version, the remix. Alright? The dun 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 dun. Ooh. Ooh. Yes. I'm convinced that there's a stranger in my house. I love that song. Alright? A couple notes before we get to the lip sync, however. Alright, a couple notes. Oh my god, I had to make sure my nipples weren't showing. Sorry about that. Alright, I got too comfortable. It's the wine. Alright, we're almost done. Okay, I told you this was going to be a long review. I told you this was going to be long. I hope you have your wine and your drink. We're almost done. Alright. Okay, so a couple notes. While the girls are backstage, things start falling apart once again. Alright, these are the girls backstage after the critique and all those types of things. Alright, so Bombae is called out as being two-faced by Fiercalicious and Kaos. Apparently, at one point, Bombae said one thing to Fiercalicious and Kaos, but backtracked down the line and either did or said something completely different to what Bombae said or did before. So Miss Fiercalicious drags Bombae for being two-faced. Bombae corrects Miss Fiercalicious in terms of what she said. And then Jada and Kaos start going at each other. Because once again, Jada and Kaos got the worst critiques today in this episode. So they start going after each other, and I'm like, oh my god, all the girls are going after each other. And then Jada goes after Kimmy Couture. Alright? Jada goes after Kimmy Couture, saying that she thought Kimmy was a friend. Apparently they've been friends, prior to this competition as well. But I don't know. I guess there's been shade between Jada and Kimmy. So then Kimmy and Jada get into it, and then Kimmy and Fierce get into it. I'm like, you know what? I'm so over this. Kimmy ends up calling Fierce immature. I completely agree with that. It just became a shit show backstage. To be honest with you, all the girls fall apart. We find out that the bottom two do end up being Jada Shada Hudson and none other than who I also do love, Kaos. All right. So Jada Shada Hudson and Kaos have to lip sync against each other once again to the song "Stranger in My House" by Tamia, the remix. There's a stranger in my house. Yes. It's hot, it's hot, it's hot, it's hot, 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 pop quiz. Tell me where we first kissed. Tell me where my spot is. Tell me if I liked it, loved it. Yes, child. I live for that song, as you can see. Alright. Jada dragged Kaos completely. Jada, pulled out all the stops. Jada did a split at one point. Miss Fiercalicious. Kaos was doing like cartwheels and stuff. But Jada really embodied the emotion of the song. And she really Jada lip synced last week. So last week was not my favorite lip sync, but Jada really proved herself to be a pretty good lip syncer in this week. So I was like, okay, that was, Jada ends up sending Kaos home, which I agree with. I thought Jada did win the lip sync, which last week I didn't so much agree about the lip sync. This week I do agree. And then we sent Kaos home. So we said goodbye to Kaos, which was kind of sad, you guys, because y'all know I really like Kaos. But it's clear that Kaos definitely has some growing to do, which we all do. We all, are, meant to grow and evolve. But, I think it was kind of Kaos' time, to be honest, as sad as it is to say. And you guys know how much I love Kaos. I love Kaos' personality. He seems like, or she seems like such a sweet queen. So it was really sad to see Kaos go. But the competition is getting fierce now. Alright, so, it is, only the best will survive at this point. Alright. So we say goodbye to Kaos, you guys, and that is the end of the episode of Canada's Drag Race Season 3, Episode 4. You guys, these episodes seem to be getting better and better as time goes on, and I am loving it. I'm loving these episodes as time goes on. I loved last week's episode. I'm excited for next week. Once again, one of the highlights for me this week was seeing Jimbo. Anything Jimbo was in, it would have been nice to see Jimbo in drag. But I guess there's something where, guest judges can't show up in drag. Maybe only Brooke Lynn Hytes can show up in drag because she's the main host. I'm not sure, but it would have been nice to see Jimbo in drag. But either way, it was really good to see Jimbo. And I thought this was a good episode. It was really sad to see Kaos go home. But now we're down one more girl, and I'm interested to see, who goes home next week, you guys. Child, this episode had me biting my nails. I'm gonna need Jada to get it together and stop being in the bottom, because I'm tired of being stressed out every week that she may go home, alright? So you guys, this was episode 4. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Once again, I am Nucleo Patra. I am your psychic, energy channeler, tarot reader, astrologer, drag queen, makeup artist, personified. All right. Thank you all for listening and watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I am going to de-drag and untuck in the workroom, alright, in my workroom, and upload this video. So I love you all. Thank you for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed this. This was an hour long, but I'm not surprised. Usually we have only 3 pages of notes. This week I had 4 pages, alright? 4 full pages of notes. I love you all. Can't wait till episode 5. Love and light. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. God bless.